In this video, I'm going to teach you how to refine your furniture pieces. Now, if your drawing is not messy yet, it's about to be. And so this process is really where you move from kind of technical drawing and plotting points into more of an expressive, sketchy, looser style. Because you just have to practice figuring out the best way to draw these more organic forms that you see, because not everything is going to be as boxy as things have been in the past when we've refined shapes. So a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to. I still have my piece of tracing paper over top of my drawing, in which I've extruded a bunch of forms out. And you can see that I have started to refine my scale figure just a little bit. And I've added one really important one, which is right here. And you can see here I have kind of drawn some lines out to indicate the hostess in the foreground here. And you can see I took some time. I erased a lot. I brought some paper underneath to kind of help me. And I really tried to take my time to think about a good position. You can see she's resting her hands on the edge of the table. I mean, almost kind of leaning a little bit. The back leg of this chair is gonna, or pardon me, the front leg of this chair is gonna be so foreshortened that it was just gonna get messy. So I just kind of draped her dress along the back of it and kind of scribbled the hemline in of her dress in. And then, eventually when we get a little farther along, I'll start to kind of add some details here. But, this is obviously a dinner party, a very formal dinner party that this person is hosting. And so you can see here, she's really prominent right at the front. And so I've placed her in the foreground, just kind of instantly give that human factor, to give a sense of scale right away, and then to kind of convey the mood and the elegance of this space. So the first thing I did was really try to kind of refine where her body and her dress was going to go, so that I could then infill the rest of the shapes. So now I'm going to move this over here a little bit. You can see the first thing that I did was I actually drew this table first, and you can see the box, the blue box is still underneath, just barely over here, you can see. And all I did was go over the blue box with pencil, again using the vanishing points, to try to draw the top of that table. And the top of the table is the same as the top of the box it shipped in. So that part was easy enough. And then, just as I've been drawing everything else in perspective, I just drew a vertical line down to convey the thickness. Here's our table right here. The thickness of the table right here. And then I came in, you can see here, the bottom of the box that this table came in ends right here. And so in my imagination, I'm thinking that this table leg is inset about a foot. And so you can see here, I drew the outline of the front of that table leg, or trestle, sometimes they call it, right here. And then I went ahead and extended those verticals up. And then you can't really tell in this picture, but there's actually like a void, like a hole through, a square shaped hole through these two trestles. And so you can see I went ahead and indicated that. And then there's actually a vertical line, or pardon me, line that goes to the vanishing point that's right here. Okay, and it's going to extend over here, so that this person sitting here could set their feet right here if they wanted to. Okay, so that was the table that I drew. And, the box that this table came in is right over here under her dress. So you don't see the other trestle, but you do see the tabletop. And so you can see that little corner right there. The next thing that I did was I drew this chair first. Now, this chair is still sitting in the box that it shipped in. I haven't erased everything, but I really needed it as a guide. And so if we look at the chair that we used for this, you can see here from the back, it's pretty boring. Now you might be thinking, why is this chair so short and squatty when this chair is so, elegant and elongated? And that's because the vanishing point here is just slightly above the chair back, and so it looks a little bit short because of the location of the vanishing point, but also it looks a little squatty because the box itself is almost right in front of that vanishing point. So you can see here, it's right at the vanishing point and it's right at the front of the picture plane. So it's kind of, it's kind of the opposite of foreshortened. It's sort of distorted a little bit. So if it looks wrong to your eye, your eye is correct. It's academically correct, but it's kind of squatty a little bit. So what you can do if you want to is start to take what is correct about this, and then start to just kind of thin it up a little bit. And maybe you do decide that you want to bring up the chair back a little bit higher, just so that it looks more accurate. And you're allowed to do that for sure. Don't go crazy, but if it looks wrong to you, and often things at the right or the very front edge of the picture plane start to look a little bit squatty, so you can kind of elongate that element just a little bit. But what I'd like to do now is, instead of focusing on the refinement of that chair, I want to focus on the refinement of this chair. And I use that term refinement because that's really how we kind of start to say, the softening from a box to an actual form. And so you can see underneath here the box that it came in. And this is really, this side chair here and what will eventually be the side chair over here is really going to show the viewer that I know how to draw this chair. And so all I've done is I've selected, the critical points from my box here that I drew already. And I've indicated here, okay, that's the top of the seat. We've got the back part of the back leg is coming here. And then the rest of these points are pretty straightforward, but those critical points are important for us to get that seat back and height correct. And you can see we've done that very well. Now, what we have to do is kind of really start to focus on the feel of this chair and the lines of this chair, and really zoom in on the form of this chair. And so the way that I did it, I started with drawing this line here, and this is a very soft continuous curve, and so that's where I started. I started by drawing that line right there. So once I had that line, because this chair is in 1-point perspective, the seat line is perfectly horizontal, so that was easy. Then, because it's in 1-point perspective, I can connect it back to this vanishing point quite simply. Now, it's got a little slight curve on the front of the seat, and you can see here, it's got just a little bend right here. And so as you refine, you're going to get dark, smudgy pencils, but that's okay. You're going to trace over this in pen eventually. So you can see it's really dark here, and you can see it's got an ever so slight little bend right there, because you can see it's got a little bend right there. So once I had that line, then I was able to kind of determine the height of this leg back here, and where the upholstery kind of shifted and shifted directions. Now, I have exaggerated that curve just a little bit here, but those two curves are the most important to get right, because that's really what makes this chair special. Then the next part was now to figure out, okay, the top ear, you can see here, we call those little ears when it pops up a little bit at the top. You can see there's a little ear at the top here, but of course it's going to go back to the vanishing point just like everything else. So this top ear is going to get just a little bit higher than this ear, but you can see it's a little bit of a point, but it's a soft curve on the back. See how it just curves just a little bit right at the top here. So we have to get that curve right. We have to get this curve right, because it's not a straight line. It's a curved line. Now, so that's really important, is to get these shapes from being really boxy or unrefined to something a little bit softer and smoother. Okay, then the other thing that I did was I started to use the vanishing point to subdivide some of the tufting on this back corner. You can see right now it's a grid, but you can see here I'm going to come in eventually, and I'm going to just soften those curves just a little bit. Okay, same thing here. Now the ones, because they're below the vanishing point, they're going to be curved and, like what we say, hold water, right? They're a little bit of a dish here. There's a little bit of a curve. Now, if this chair, for example, if all these lines were happening above the vanishing point, you could see, use your hand. It would curve, those tufts would curve under. They would not hold water. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind and realize that they don't kind of, they're not overly puffy, right? Because they're not kind of puffing over the back of that seat. So just Be gentle. Go a little bit of time. Don't over exaggerate stuff. That's my advice for drawing kind of these softer, smooth things. Now, the next thing I want to do is draw the legs. Now, I'm a messy sketcher because I've been doing it a long time. So what I did was, because I can't get great detail on my pencil right here, I went ahead and showed you a little bit of a larger image of what this looks like. A couple of things to keep in mind on the back of this chair is the wrapping around of the legs, and then look at the box where the legs are created here. You can see there's horizontal lines where it's parallel to the vanishing point, and then where it connects back, it's horizontal lines because it says in 1-point perspective. But then here, where I connect these points back to the vanishing point, you can see here that there's an alignment of the front and side edges of the feet. And then keep in mind too, these are tapered square and tapered legs. So there's flat front and then an ever so slight taper, okay, on the legs themselves. And you can see here, because of the location and the vanishing point, you'll see just a little bit of that back foot back here. You'll see it here. And it's going to come up. It's going to start right here. But that's how it's going to look. And it's going to be a little bit puffy here, a little bit puffy here, a little bit puffy here where the upholstery is going to connect to that wood underneath the padding. And then the rest of this, all these legs are in perfect alignment because this is in 1-point perspective. So once you've got a couple of those chairs drawn, then you can start to refine the shapes back here, refine the chair on this side as well. And it just takes a lot of practice, a lot of smudges, a lot of erasing, but eventually you get the hang of it, and it just takes really studying those pieces of furniture that you have printed out.